Donovan Olugbode. Did I say that right? You corrected me earlier.
Olugbode.
Okay, Olugbode,
He
pretty
is
close. Yeah.
he is wide receiver 14 currently, 117th overall in the nation. 6'1", 200 pounds. Uh, he played at IMG Academy out of Florida, first ranked team in Florida, obviously fourth nationally. Extremely good team. We all know them. He's currently looking at Florida, Missouri, Washington, and USC as his top schools. So, did you say
I
something?
will start the video, by the way. Stalling a little bit because the download's taking a little longer and I waited. So
Oh
keep
no.
talking and it'll start in a minute.
So he's a really well-rounded player, I think. Ready to go player for sure. 200 pounds already, like we said, good size, ready to go there physically. And I think he has a really well-rounded skill set on top of it. He has great hands. He's a good route runner, pretty good after the catch as well. A good blocker too, from what I've seen. I think he has a skill set that college coaches will really like, and they'll want him to be a core part of their wide receiver room, and definitely get him on the field early, just because he has that ready to go skill set. That being said, I do believe he adds much more value to a real life football team than he does to a college roster or a fantasy roster. I do not anticipate him being a wide receiver one for one of these top tier schools like the four that I mentioned at the beginning of this. Um, I do believe that he can be a consistently very good wide receiver too, though. I think he can get there pretty early in his career. I definitely think he'd beat year 1-0. He just has the skill set that I think will get him on the field early. If he's especially playing these big schools and in a blowout or whatever. Um, but yeah, I
All
do
right.
believe he's limited a bit there. Uh, his skill set, I think he's good at a lot of things, but he's not great at any single thing. There's no one big standout trait there. Production wise, he's been pretty solid, but when he played there with Carnell Tate, he was a sophomore. Tate was a senior, so Tate obviously outproduced him. We know Tate's good. But that same year, Winston Watkins also like doubled his production when they were both sophomores. But I do love me some Winston Watkins, probably more than most. So I can't really knock him too much for that. Last season, he outproduced Dre Hawkins, who's now at Florida. So that's pretty good. Big thing holding him back, though, is definitely the athletic profile. 28th percentile athlete in our database, 25th percentile athlete in our database currently. Not a ton of data on him, but what we do have, it's not great. He does have a basketball background, which is something we definitely look out for, and he has a crazy frame. I mean, 200 pounds already, like we said. He also has a reported 35-inch arm length and 10.5-inch hands, both of which are like 98th percentile in our database. So crazy measurables there. But overall, I think we're looking at a really safe, consistent, ready to go player. But I'm not sure about the fantasy upside of him currently. I'm just not sure it's really there.
Fair enough. And also kudos to you for filibustering all the way through to the end of the video. Thought we may have to jump in there somewhere, but nice job. Very professional of you. David, tell us, what do you think about this guy? I mean, it seems like that was a bit of a lukewarm take, and certainly maybe a real life guy, not a fantasy guy. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think the majority of our takes are pretty lukewarm. It's just like, although I will say, like recently he did get really good reviews for at OT7. They said that he looked pretty sudden. I don't know. I didn't really see a ton of that on tape. Like I think he's fine in that regard. Pretty good, I guess, for his size. Given he's 6'1", 200, pretty thickly built. But maybe he busts out even more so as a senior. One thing that will be interesting to look at as far as like his production profile is Raiden Vines Bright, who is a wide receiver committed to Washington, is transferring into IMG. So it'll be interesting to see how their production kind of shakes out. Who can outproduce the other is something to monitor. But yeah, I think he's the guy that I'd rather go. I'd rather him not go to like a blue blood type school. So I think he'd have a better chance of producing at a lower level.
Yeah, he does strike me as the kind of guy who may honestly, like what Matt was saying, you know, a guy who maybe does get on the field, avoids the year 1-0, which we know is more of a rule out rather than a rule in. So just because he avoids the year 1-0 does not mean he's like guaranteed to be a star. But then potentially gets recruited over, which we see that happen from time to time. A guy will like kind of make some noise and then just disappear as recruits come in and more talented guys maybe come in, even though he was ready to go early in his career. Maybe a kind of a guy who's already hitting a ceiling just based on kind of even his game style, his play style. I don't watch that tape and get very excited. So I think we're all pretty similar. You know, maybe a Y type wide receiver, consistent, but, you know, probably no real future outside of the college game. And probably a guy who could go to, like, for instance, you ever hear about him traveling, you know, transferring to like South Alabama, some high powered G5? That could be very fun, you know, so we'll see where he lands.